Good evening, everyone. My name is Pastor Derrick, and this is my wife, Bridgett, and um, we are um, starting a new series in our YouTube channel, and it's going to be based on marriage relationship and based on how our relationship is working, and in turn how it can help you in your relationship. And so there may be all kinds of things that you think of when it comes to relationship or marriage, and we're going to discuss and break down all those different things, and we're going to um, build on those things to help to build a relationship. We are not professionals, and we want you to know that we're celebrating 7 years of marriage, and that we want to share that experience with you, only as experience, um, and so there are some keys that will lead to a successful marriage that we have written down, and so we're going to read some of those things, and then we're going to talk about together uh, what those things mean for each one of us. And The very first key to a successful marriage is communication. It reads, it says, communicate clearly and often. So, um, you know, communicating for me is, taking some time into, well, not just taking time, but listening, always listening. And that's the most important thing about communication. And sometimes we may not always hear what we think we hear, so we have to pay attention and have patience. And so, from a logical standpoint, sometimes we might miss those things. I know I've missed those things sometimes, and so, um, but in a marriage, you also grow and you learn some of these things, these steps that we are giving you today. And so that's, from my standpoint, that's some of what communicating is. And so I'll let we'll hand it over to my wife, and so she can give her viewpoint on that.
Yeah, I mean, communication is very, very important because, like it says, to communicate clearly and often. I think, especially clearly, is very important because, I mean, you can say something, but if you're not being detailed about something, you can't just assume that your spouse knows exactly what's all in your head and everything. So it's really important to be very clear about, whether it's, something dealing with the children or, likes or dislikes, stuff like that. It's really important to be very clear about certain things. And then often it's so easy as a married couple to be so busy. Like I said, we have 3 children, and then we also have my brother uh, that is an adult but has autism, and then our oldest son has autism. So it's so easy to get so busy, 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 dealing with everybody else, and you're not really talking as much, or you're just assuming that the other person knows everything.
Yeah, we get where we have this imaginary umbrella thing that the other person, they have to know what I'm thinking of, just because I'm thinking of it. But there's not any telekinesis involved in your marriage. And
Yeah.
so we may not get through all these keys in this session. So there will be a second part. This is more or less an introductory to what we're all about. So, and as again, we're staying on topic on the communication part. Um, you know, um, if you can remember being, getting married, walking down the aisle, and then the preacher is telling you the scriptures, and he's saying you take care of your wife to have and to hold, and so that's one of the things that kind of tie in with communication is what is it that to have and to hold, um, because those two things are what glues your entire marriage together. If not, it will crumble very quickly. We've seen that happen, and so for me, to have and to hold, to be able to have your spouse's back, no matter if you um, don't understand it completely. As long as it follows in the lines of godly principles. And I'll say it again because, and for me, I tell people that my wife loves God more than me, because if in our relationship we put God first, and so this may not apply to every relationship out there, but for those that believe in the Lord, having a godly relationship starts with the grassroots of your spouse loving God and you loving God more than you love each other. Because if you love each other more than God, you'll probably start doing things outside of God's will, and it'll be hard to work with God in your life together if you're not on the same accord. And so, that's another thing about it. Communication as well. Communicating that and that you're in a relationship with God. Communicate that with your spouse. Um, there's a saying: those that pray together stay together. And so, if you're not doing that, then I would encourage you to do that, and because that's what is going to help you to grow and flourish and have a stability in your relationship. And even if you may not understand where your relationship is going, because we won't always see the big picture in the end. And marriage is full of life. It's a long life. It's the rest of your life. It's not to be taken lightly, very serious and an entrusted thing to do.
Well, and I think that, before we got married, we did talk about, you know, we talked about our relationship with God and everything. And I think that's something that maybe many people don't talk about um, in the beginning, because, like, I mean, it might be difficult if one person has a relationship with God and another person doesn't,
Right.
and everything. And so
it would be like,
so that's where
yeah.
communication starts before marriage. It starts in the friendship. When you start dating, it starts early, and so it's really important to communicate those things. Whether you want children or you don't want children. Communication is a very big part of, like, your whole relationship from the beginning on.
All the way to the end.
Yeah.
I believe that those are the grassroots of starting your relationship. So how you start your relationship is going to be defined on everything that you put in it in the beginning. One thing that I told my wife was that before we were married, that when we were about to date, that it had to be about the Lord, and so and that I was about kingdom business, and I wasn't doing any messing around. I was too old to be playing games, and I was ready to settle down and have a life, not just any old life either, a life with God and family. And so we're gonna probably get ready to kind of close off some of this segment that we're having with you. You might hear a baby crying in the background, and so
he wants to be a part of the podcast, but he doesn't have any input at this moment.
Right. So, but we hope that this amount of information and where we left off at is communication. So tomorrow, the next time that we come on, we'll be talking about being thankful for your spouse, that you have them in your life, and what that means. And so, we want you to encourage you to stay in your marriage, and don't let the fire go out. And don't put the fire out either. Because we can actually, as guys, we tend to want to put things out that aren't, don't need to be put out. And so we're praying for you, and that we'll see you guys on the next video. May God bless you with this information today, and you have a wonderful day.